The best bribe which London offers to the imagination is that, in such a vast variety of people and conditions, one can believe there is room for persons of romantic character to exist, and that the poet, the mystic, and the hero may hope to confront their counterparts. I'm MB Delocchio. Arrivals and departures began as a freak idea amid the COVID-19 lockdown in London right after relocating from Los Angeles. As an artist, author, combat veteran, and social worker, I wanted to make sense of a new and uncertain world. Through these dispatches from around the world, I explore lessons learned, new discoveries, amazing food, life-altering events, and stories of real people. Before moving to London in early 2020, it was already a familiar city. I had stopped here numerous times over the years as a visitor and on layovers, but being a resident changed everything. In Los Angeles, my mind was in a constant fog. I had tons of ideas collecting dust in my mind's attic for years, but I was still working out residual trauma that I can now say impeded my creativity. We moved to London and suddenly, boom, the creative juices are flowing. Yeah, I said juices. And the ideas and inspiration have suddenly found a clear path to manifestation. But why is that? Is there something about certain cities that can transform us, inspire us? Is there something about certain locations throughout the world that can trigger the sleeping creative within? I don't know, but London has me thinking differently. But hopefully by the end of this episode, you'll see what I see in London too. While there are 7 regional airports in London, chances are you'll be flying into Heathrow Airport. If you're not keen on taking an expensive cab, you can also hop on the metro line, which is connected to London Heathrow, and it'll get you directly to central London. After leaving LA behind and making London our new home, I was sure that there was more to this theory. Some cities just have a personality. New York seems like a hyper-masculine dude bro in a suit. You know, sharp-looking yet wildly overrated and useless. San Francisco, the sister city that's gentrified everything to death, promising peace and love while ignoring its own problems, yet she's still magical and endearing. London, however, I'm getting to know a bit better. Amid pulp culture, literary nerd history, and sprawling markets, the city's growing on me. A friend of ours calls London the elegant bitch, and I'm starting to feel that name is quite good. London essentially started out as a swamp with a winding river cutting through it, today known as the River Thames. It's believed that there have been people in this area now called London for at least 6,000 years. At one point, it was the capital of Roman Britannia, and after the Romans abandoned the area, it was refounded by Alfred the Great in 886 AD. It's said that the name London was initially named after a raven deity. According to the Oxford Companion to the English Language, the designation comes from Londinium, a Romanized version of its earlier Celtic name. And that makes sense. Like the raven, London is dark, enchanted, intelligent, and mysterious. Works that have come out of this city have been damn near prophetic, along with catering to carnivorous appetites. In its shadows, it's seen death, war, plagues, and misery. But its light has also produced illuminating works of literary and visual art. London is an enigma, but now it's home. While you can choose to go on a tour, head out to these places one by one, which would not be the easiest task, or to go on a bus tour. Your options are open. I, on the other hand, have been to London quite a few times before and opt for the more relaxed route. Tour boats on the Thames, starting at Millennium Pier near the Tower of London, offer short cruises up and down the famous river while offering a variety of photo ops of famous landmarks like the London Eye, Big Ben, Tower Bridge, and a variety of other landmarks for the gram. You can sit back, relax, and even have a few drinks while soaking in the sights. This is my preferred method anyway. In such a mercurial city, one might opt to take a bird's eye view of London. I'd recommend getting dinner and catching the sunset at Duck and Waffle. There are other high-rise buildings like the Shard where you can get amazing views of the city, but you can't beat the comfort food and ambiance here. Any one of these museums is a good choice, but if you want a lot of culture accompanied by controversy, head to the British Museum where you can reenact lines from Black Panther while judging the museum's collection of Benin bronzes. Or head to the Reading Room, which used to be a part of the Old British Library. Here, Karl Marx wrote Das Kapital, and other famous visitors included Marcus Garvey, Virginia Woolf, George Orwell, Gandhi, Mark Twain, and a litany of others. While you can meander about neighborhoods that spark your interest or seek out specific museums and landmarks, I highly recommend a few different paths to get your share of photo ops, history, pubs, and local eats. 1. Go on a street art tour where you can literally spend hours gazing at world-famous murals in London's Shoreditch neighborhood. 2. Head to all the big markets and eat your way through London like a decent human being. 3. Go on a walking tour of literary London. Walk in the boozy steps of Karl Marx or Oscar Wilde, and you won't be disappointed. Or 4. Do creepy ghosty shit and retrace the steps of Jack the Ripper or visit Henry VIII's torture chambers at the Tower of London. Whatever muse brought you to London, be sure to feed its appetites. While there are plenty of art galleries in London to feed your artistic soul, I'm a big fan of spending time outdoors when possible in the big smoke. If museums are a bit too snooty for your taste, I recommend checking out world-famous street art in London's Shoreditch neighborhood near Spitalfields Market. Once you've had your fill of Banksy and local artists, you can grab a bite to eat at the incredible St. John's Bread and Wine in Shoreditch. While we're on the topic of markets, London has quite a few excellent ones. You can pick from any market on the list and have a great experience, but above all, I prefer Borough Market. You'll find a wide variety of international fare, and if you're lucky enough, maybe you'll get roasted by Uncle Roger at the Michelin-starred Mei while trying to order Singaporean snacks. After a proper food recon and sampling, you can then walk it off by heading toward the old and new Shakespeare's Globe just a few blocks away on the Thames. Here's where you can really dig into London's boozy literary history. London is an iconic literary city. From Shakespearean history to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein to Karl Marx's Das Kapital, this city casts a spell on readers and writers in ways that almost seem mystical. Hell, I grew up with Paddington Bear, and then through my teens, English Lit's been ingrained in me. But there's more to the local history here that makes for fun, guided, or self-guided tours along with frequenting the same drinking establishments as the city's most iconic authors and residents. If you're a fan of Virginia Woolf, wander over to 46 Gordon Square in Bloomsbury, where the famous author lived. Then hop on over to Wolf and Whistle, a cozy bar snuggled in the Art Deco-laden ground floor of the Tavistock Hotel. It's inspired by the famous 20th century writer and includes a menu of light bites and a nice wine list. After all, Woolf did say, "One cannot think well, love well, sleep well, if one has not dined well." For a taste of dystopia, check out Trafalgar Square, where George Orwell based Victory Square in his novel 1984. For bonus points, you can check out the inspiration for the Ministry of Truth's Canteen, which is the BBC at 200 Oxford Street. But for Orwellian drinks, head to Hen and Chicken's Theatre Bar, one of several local pubs used by Orwell to come up with his criteria for what he considered the perfect pub. Feeling wild? Check out Oscar Wilde's favorite bar inside the Hotel Kettner's on 29 Romilly Street in Soho. Not only would its walls tell stories of Wilde wining and dining Charles Parker in the Champagne Bar, but of Agatha Christie tucking into delicious dishes or Bing Crosby singing into the night. Speaking of Agatha Christie, if you read At Bertram's Hotel, you'll be pleased to find that you can enjoy a cocktail inside the real hotel that it was modeled after, which is Brown's Hotel. Have drinks at the hotel's Donovan Bar and enjoy the sultry vibes steeped in mystery. Sexy. If you want to walk with Marx once more, you can check out his former home at 28 Dean Street in Soho, which is now home to Quo Vadis, a restaurant and private club where you can rent out a room known as the Marx Room for corporate drinks. The irony here is not lost. While there are quite a few diverse contemporary authors from the UK and are from London, I would advise against following in their footsteps just for the sake of not stalking people. Stalking is wrong. While you could really spend days in London geeking out over literary tours or self-guided pub crawls chasing after the ghosts of your favorite authors, you could also engage in the uber creepy by checking out London's creepiest sites from the Jack the Ripper tour, checking out Henry VIII's legacy of murder and torture in the Tower of London, or get paranormal and check out the London Ghost Club, whose members include, or used to include, Charles Dickens, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and other authors and poets who convene to discuss all things supernatural. If you're feeling extra brave, head over to 50 Berkeley Square. This infamous address has been dubbed as the most haunted house in London since the 1900s. Overnight stays are highly cautioned, as several people from maids to sailors have died after experiencing paranormal events, especially while spending the night, witnessing horrors that landed them in asylums or falling down from the stairs in a mad dash to escape. London is filled with literary ghosts, glorious street art, a sketchy history, and eccentric characters. Its dry wit, ancient wisdom, chains, and leather with a side of espresso in a library bar filled with cigar smoke. Deep in the thick of its iconic fog, I found clarity, and I have London, the ever-elegant bitch, to thank for this lucid new chapter. In the meantime, I'm looking out over the Thames, thinking about the journeys ahead. Thanks, London. It's been quite the adventure so far. Thanks for traveling through London with me today, and for more recommendations, including maps for self-guided walking tours, please visit arrivalsdepartures.uk. In the meantime, please hit subscribe, like, share, and I will see you next time.